The former DOJ prosecutor who successfully prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell for child sex trafficking and who was assigned to prosecute the case against Jeffrey Epstein before he died. She is now speaking out publicly against the Trump regime's behavior. She gave a speech at Fordham Law School where she ripped the Trump regime to shreds. She ripped to shreds the behavior, how they've lost all trust, and how nobody can ever trust any of the words from this Department of Justice anymore. The lawyer I'm talking about is Maureen Comey, who just so happens to also be the daughter of James Comey. And of course, you know, she was retaliated against by the Trump regime and forced out of the DOJ by the Trump regime. She has sued the DOJ and she's now breaking her silence. So a former top prosecutor against Epstein and Ghislaine is breaking her silence against the Trump DOJ right now at Fordham University. She used the following line that her father, James Comey, has used before about the DOJ losing all of its trust. She did an analogy and compared the DOJ to a reservoir, and she likened the department's trust by the judiciary and the public to a reservoir, saying it takes a long, long time to fill up, but it only takes one little blip in the dam to empty. And here we've had an explosion in the dam and the reservoir is essentially empty. And so as a result, even if assistant U.S. attorneys are ethical people who are doing their job the same way they have been for years, when they stand up now in court and say, I represent the United States government, they no longer have a presumption that what is about to come out of their mouth next is true and honest. We all remember that Maureen Comey warned her former colleagues after she was fired from the DOJ, after her termination, that fear is the tool of a tyrant. And when she spoke at Fordham Law School this past week at a conference called Preserving Democracy, she addressed that message as Politico writes, saying she was seeking to ensure that prosecutors she respected would remain in the office and serve as a bulwark against further political interference. I know that when I wrote my email to the folks at SDNY after I was terminated, what was going on in my head was how important it was to make sure that my colleagues, who I knew were excellent public servants, would stay and would not be intimidated and would not be afraid and would keep doing the work that they had been doing the same way they had been doing it for years, while defending her former colleagues and those who she says are victims of thinned out resources and are doing the best they can in a horrible situation. She also ridiculed Justice Department employees who she described as taking unethical or improper steps to advance the objectives of the Trump regime. The other bucket is those who are assigning their names to briefs that are full of vitriol or who are affirmatively making misstatements of fact and law, are failing to cite controlling cases, are submitting affidavits that they know to be false or misleading. I feel no sympathy for them, she said, because that is a violation of their oath to the Constitution and of their ethical duties, not only as government lawyers, but as members of the bar. So there's the former top prosecutor on the Epstein case and in the Ghislaine case, calling out the DOJ in very kind of clear terms. And I'll just say this. When I teach, maybe you know this about me, I'm a law professor at USC. The hardest part for me is where I used to always recommend that law students work at the DOJ. I thought it was one of the best places you can work, highly competitive, hard to get jobs at the DOJ. And I would tell people work at the DOJ regardless of administration. Even the first Trump administration, I still thought, okay, I strongly disagree. I despise that administration. But there were at least some levers of normalcy at the DOJ the first time around. And now, though, it is really all but impossible to work there. And we're seeing federal judges across the country, Trump appointed judges, Bush appointed judges, Reagan appointed judges, and yes, Obama, Biden, and Clinton appointed judges. But all of these judges at the district court and circuit court level, by and large, calling out the behavior by the Trump DOJ, the violations of court order, the missed deadlines, the lies, the submitting perjurious affidavits, the conduct, all of it. I want to bring in Harry Litman from the Talking Feds YouTube channel, Talking Feds Substack, and Talking Feds podcast. Harry, so great to see you. You and I have been covering all of this, frankly, since last year. I describe our work almost like meteorologists following the hurricane as it hits the shore, as you watch it develop from a storm to a tropical storm to a hurricane to a stage 1 or a category 1, category 5. And we're now category 5 destruction, decimation of the DOJ. Really, as 2026 started, any of the, what's the expression? The straw that broke the camel's back or whatever, like it broke. The dam, I mean, why should I come up with another analogy? The dam burst. Let me use her dam analogy. It's a better one. The dam has burst, and that's just the reality. The DOJ has zero credibility. Harry, you were a former top federal prosecutor. You led the Western District of Pennsylvania's prosecutor's office. That's a big job. And you were one of the top lawyers at Maine Justice. Talk to us about it, Harry.
Ben, this is tragic. Let me start first with Maureen Comey and tell you she is not a flamethrower. She is a upright AUSA who knows you speak in court. I mean, when she comes out with this sort of description, you can multiply it by 20 in terms of the severity of what she is saying. She is an embodiment. There are many, 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 many colleagues of hers across the country who came in to do the right thing, but each and every one of them knows that the Department of Justice and all it stood for, built up over years and years and years, is just no more. I have a Substack out today called "It Was Nice While It Lasted," talking about some of those judges that you were just mentioning. And yes, they take lawyers to task for missing deadlines and for not being candid and for missing the big cases. But they do much, much more. They take the Department of Justice as an institution to task, and they say precisely what Maureen Comey is saying. The presumption of regularity, the integrity that was the tailwind for the Department of Justice is no more. That's an absolute heartbreaking development. She's so true that it takes so much time to aggregate that kind of reputation, and no time, well, we've seen in a year, to lose it, and lose it at the institutional level. Anyone now who comes in from the DOJ, this DOJ, knows, as you've just said, it may well be dancing with the devil and just completely failing to adhere to their oaths to do the right thing, do justice without fear or favor, and uphold the Constitution of the United States. So it's just been completely, we started with the reservoir, but I'll go with the complete tsunami that has just leveled. We have a complete sort of parking lot where once there was a beautiful structure of the Department of Justice, and you have just look in the last few days, the chief judge in Minnesota or Judge Karashi in New Jersey, and not saying simply you AUSA and even you office are being a little squirrely. It's like the presumption of regularity and everything that's stood with it is just frigging gone. They've killed it. I'm both apoplectic about it and heartbroken about it. And by the way, yes, you feel it very acutely as a DOJ alum, but that presumption operated to the benefit of other things besides. It's not just the DOJ lawyers. That made it possible, since they were getting up every day, coming to work and doing the right thing, that facilitated the critical work of the Department of Justice to vindicate federal law, constitutional rights, and the like. So even in bread and butter cases now, they're just any other litigant, and if anything, a suspect litigant. It facilitated the very important, in a democracy, overall confidence of the people that the law was being fairly applied. It's always easy to kind of trash the DOJ. They're the overdogs. I spent a lot of time in the office saying to people, honestly, everyone comes in to do the right thing here. It's an amazing place and cultural institution, and it was. That is all history now. I don't know why I just flashed on this, but I have in mind the very last scene of Planet of the Apes, where Charlton Heston sees the part of the Statue of Liberty and just screams out, "They killed it! They killed it!" But these MFs just have strangled something that took generations to build, was super valuable for righteousness and fairness and vindication of constitutional rights in this country for everyone. And I've talked to so many people, and I've thought about it so seriously, how you even try to put the pieces back together again. It took generations to build. When will it ever be that the DOJ returns to that position? I'm sure at the time the portraits of Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche will be gathering dust in the basement, but it's once things are lost, very, very difficult to build them back up. Maureen Comey's image here of a reservoir is really the right one, and man, oh man, it is a tragedy.
Right. I mean, like, who would want to work for Enron right now? Or if someone created a company called the Bernie Madoff Company, who's going to rush to work at the Bernie Madoff Company?
Right.
I
mean, Adolf Hitler Foundation.
who is going to work at these organizations? And I'm not going to go. Look, the DOJs. But that's how, if you're a good top lawyer and you're like, I just saw that what happens if, some other right wing thing comes into power in the future. I can't trust this with my career. You know what? I'm going to stay in private practice, or I'm going to bring my talents here. Or also, how much great talent out of law school would have started at the DOJ, and the future top lawyers just not even thinking about this as a career path at all. And I don't blame him for it, because you sign your name to some of these pleadings, you're done. I mean, like, you are viewed by these judges. Again, let me reiterate, from all political parties, Trump judges, George Bush judges, George H.W. Bush judges, Reagan, Clinton, Obama, and Biden. They're not just saying, they're not making ideological rulings even. They're just like, you detain somebody and you miss the deadline about why they need to stay detained, and then you didn't release them after not filing the document. So I ordered you to release them, and then you released them but didn't give them their belongings back, and now they froze to death. Like, answer for, like it's stuff like that, Harry. Anyway, before I go.
Yeah, and multiply it, Ben, by 100. The chief judge of the Minnesota District Court, to your point, a Scalia clerk, not at all an ideological warrior, and certainly not of the left, said, you've done this 100 times. And then the U.S. attorney in Minnesota said, no, we didn't. That's beyond the pale. So we ordered up a new count, and he had been mistaken. It was closer to 200. And again, the critique is not just you did this, you did that, but it's your office did this, your department did this. You are now a rogues gallery of people we cannot trust. And the implications and kind of corollaries of that, not just for DOJ, but for the people, the cause of justice, are profound.
Everybody subscribe to Harry Litman's YouTube channel. It's called Talking Feds. Subscribe to the Talking Feds YouTube channel. He's also got a Substack and a podcast by the same name, Talking Feds. Subscribe now there. Subscribe here to our YouTube channel. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Ben.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.